Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm here with Jordan, the Stanford tree. Another episode of the Behind the Mascot podcast. I never know what number we're on, but I think we're like episode 10 or 11. So, Jordan, how the hell are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I mean, I'm excited to be here. Where else would I rather be right now? Talking
Yeah,
about tree, the greatest thing in the
the
world.
the tree, and it is the tree because there's only one tree per year, right?
Yep, the one and only 44th Stanford tree.
So every other mascot I talk to, they're like, "Oh, we got the mascot crew, or we got like the house, or we got multiple people." But the tree, there's just one tree. So what do your responsibilities look like as the one tree?
I would definitely say comparable to at least speaking with other mascots, at least in the Pac-12 as well. A lot busier because normally workloads that you're splitting between people,
Mm.
I'm doing everything. So every single sports event that we're having the tree go to, every pep rally, for traveling, I'm traveling with the team for that. But then you've also got a level of independence there where some mascots will have people sort of grabbing them water bottles and helping them out, making sure have everything they need. Tree is a very, very independent. There's a lot that you're doing on your own. But for that reason, I feel like you sort of have this whole helm of control to make it whatever you want it to be.
And I just feel like with all the traditional mascot roles in one circle, and then there's a tree in a completely other circle. Because I know people, we were filming stuff in Vegas with me and Grayson, and then some dude was kind of like heckling us, and then Grayson just said to him like, "Hey, piss off!" And like the guy didn't know like the tree can talk to you. The tree's allowed to talk to you. So the
Oh,
tree is like,
absolutely. Yeah, the
so.
tree is absolutely allowed to talk. No rules really apply to the tree, in my opinion. And
Mm.
I'm the tree, so I guess I make those rules. But I would say, whereas most mascots are limited in here's your character that you're playing, here's what you're supposed to be doing, here's this, here's that, whatever. Tree is do whatever you want. There are no rules. If you want to talk to somebody, go for it. If there's a bike and you want to push it over, you want to steal someone's dog and take it for a walk during the performance, go for it. Like, absolutely, Tree is about doing what you want to do. And I feel like that's super exciting and what makes it super special and fun and different, but definitely, definitely very different.
The one thing that is unanimous between all trees is they have like the three rings around, and the dance move is they just jump in circles while like the leaves flap up and down. That's always like the most fun. Also, a thing about the tree is other mascots have kind of changed throughout the years. You know, you'll get a different suit or you'll look back, it's an old photo of, Benny the Beaver or the duck. The tree is different every single year, and you make the tree every single year over summer. So what's like the once you get selected as the tree, what's that process like, and how long does it take to make the tree?
Some people a lot faster than other people. I'll say that. It depends on your craft ability. I think I'm a very creative person, not necessarily a super crafty person, maybe with like woodworking and stuff, but learning how to weld, learning how to sew, I had no idea how to do that. So I spent at least a month just learning how to sew properly because for some reason that was alarmingly difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I had that down, you're sewing all the leaves, you're cutting foam, actually structuring and doing a little bit of math to see sizing, getting it to fit your body properly because it is your tree. It is built for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd say it did take about the whole summer, but it was a lot of fun. And it's really cool to have a tree that looks exactly the way I want it to. I'm not filling the role of someone else's creation. Like, this is truly exactly what I wanted it to look like. This is what it is.
I've seen a lot of trees in the past. Like I said, I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up a Cal fan. Just putting that out there. I went to big game more years. Like I've been to the Stanford Stadium so many times. Uh, every single tree has always had the big goofy eyes. Traditionally, the big goofy eyes, but your tree was like the black and red. What was the inspiration behind? I'll put a picture up in post of your tree, but it seemed like one of the most unique trees I've seen besides like the palm tree. So, what was your inspiration behind that?
I knew I did not want my tree to be green because I feel in some narcissistic sense that I must be different. I must stand out. So I thought I would make my tree a different color. I also grew up watching exclusively horror movies. To this day, it's my favorite genre. I watch horror movies literally to calm down after a stressful day. They help me relax. And so I wanted my tree to also be some sort of representative of the idea of fear the tree. Well, I
Mhm.
took that quite literally. I wanted my tree to be scary, or at least scarier than most trees, and sort of embody this dark horror aspect because I would look at that tree and go, oh, yeah, that definitely represents who I am.
Are you also on the tree Twitter? Is that you tweeting everything out on
That
there?
is me.
Okay, because the tree Twitter has been since the whole thank you, Daniel, USC and UCLA leaving, the tree Twitter has been absolutely fucking ruthless, and I've loved it every single second. So thank you so much for doing the God's work for the Pac-12 for that. Um,
Just doing my job.
Another thing, the Stanford tree, but it's the cardinal. So I know the history of kind of like where the tree's from, but also from my perspective about Stanford is I've been to more like University of Washington is also a very good school, or Cal. I'll compare Cal to Stanford. Cal seems like a lot more kind of like it seems a little bit more rigid. It seems everyone at Stanford, they're some of the brightest minds in the nation, but they kind of know that and they just fuck around a lot. I feel like all of them are on acid probably most of the time. So where did the Stanford tree come from? And what is like the history behind the first few trees?
Yeah, so back in the day, Stanford used to be the Stanford Indians.
Mm,
And eventually, Stanford caught their bearings and were like, we should probably change that.
mm.
It's probably a wise decision. And they were like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to let the student body decide. And they can submit ideas for whatever they want. And then we will vote. And so there were tons and tons of ideas. There was the Cardinal was one of them. The robber barons was another one of them. And then somebody, as a joke, submitted the Stanford tree. Now, the robber barons ended up winning, and Stanford administration sat down and said, "We don't like that. So actually, this is no longer a vote. We're going to be the Cardinal." And so, screw the vote. None of that actually mattered. But in response to that, the student body decided to start rallying behind this idea of like, we want to be the tree, like, we want to be the tree, which was like bottom of the voting forum. So the first Stanford trees created a tree costume, stood up and ran around at a game, and that became a thing eventually, where the band took that under, where every year someone would dress up as a tree and be this representative of we have the Stanford tree. We are the Stanford tree. We are not the robber baron or the cardinal, whatever.
And the robber baron, because Leland Stanford was like one of the robber barons who helped build the railroad through the Sierra Nevada, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so.
I kind of know my Stanford lore, that and Hoover Tower a little bit. Also, I just realized in this logo, with like all the different mascot stuffs, I got the tree leg right there.
I was looking at it earlier. I was trying to figure out where I was.
Well, these are all the Pac-12s. We got the duck, cougar, Benny, that tree, USC swoop, Sparky, and I
I
think
saw Sparky for sure. Sparky's a friend now. After
uh,
that,
so that's another thing is I talked to University of Arizona and Max who got in the fight. You saw the fight between Wilbur and Sparky. So he got fired for that position, and Sparky seemed to have gotten off scot free. But I was also like, well, Sparky was the one that held up the sign with the tree during that infamous "Free the Tree," which I guess what a great transition. If you Google the Stanford tree right now, these three articles pop up. Stanford student suspended from serving as tree mascot, suspended for antics, and suspended for holding. Period. So if you would like to indulge with us, what happened last football season, and are you the student they're referring to?
I'm definitely that. I am the 44th tree. Again, one and only. It's got to be me. Um, but I did get suspended at the end of fall quarter from being the tree uh,
Mm,
for walking across the field at halftime with a 40-foot banner that said Stanford hates fun.
mhm. Now the question entails Stanford, they hate fun then, right?
Well, I think there's a chance that they love fun, but if they loved fun, they wouldn't have suspended me for it.
So what was the idea behind bringing out the Stanford Hates fun? What caused that?
I definitely say the tree has to be a beacon that represents the student body, but also
Mhm.
a beacon of rebellion.
Mm,
And there is a lot of unrest within the student body,
mm,
and the sentiment that Stanford is completely cracking down on social life and on social safety in that regard. So, a great example, particularly one of the most motivating factors for me, was the idea that Stanford previously had a Good Samaritan policy in regards to alcohol and social life and substance use on campus. So, for
mm.
example, you're in college, you see someone who's intoxicated and they may need medical help because they're inexperienced, they're trying things out for the first time. Stanford used to have a policy where if you take them to the hospital and you take them to Stanford Healthcare or any of those Stanford Hospital, et cetera, that they will take care of that person and omit any actual academic repercussions. That is no longer the case. They
Oh
actually
shit.
abolished that a few years ago, which has led to a lot of people actually jeopardizing their health in secret out of fear that they may lose their spot at the university. There was also, I think, a great example, someone who hosted a birthday party off campus 30 minutes away in San Jose.
Oh
And
shit.
Stanford actually cracked down on her with academic repercussions because she didn't register the party with the university, even though it was her personal birthday party and it was off campus half an hour away. I think that is incredibly overbearing, but nobody wanted to say anything and felt powerless to do something about it. That is exactly the position that the tree has, is I'm going to be the person who's fearless and who's going to come out and say, we need change. I demand change.
You've
Pay
got
attention.
you've got the great soapbox to say that
Sure.
to everyone. And also just I'll put up in post in case you don't know the Leland Stanford Junior Marching Band uh are some of the wildest and most, I would say, outspoken people on campus. They're not just playing normal instruments. Half of them are playing drums on like a stop sign. So at that point, that's I feel like the real embodiment of Stanford, of like these students that everyone's there smart, but they want to, I don't know. I feel like they have something more to say at that point. So being the beacon of the tree and being the one even above all that, that's a great position to have. So that got on the news everywhere. Did the university come at you personally, or did they just suspend you from the tree?
I mean, I would say that was coming at me personally. They
Or
didn't
like or
suspend
like
anyone else.
or like academically. I'm sorry. You're right.
No, no, no. I just remember, you know, getting yelled at a lot of uh chastising for that, and then being pulled into a lot of meetings, and then
Mm.
being told that I was suspended and I should not come back. And then yeah, and then I came back January.
And then I came back.
Can't stop, won't stop. And then yeah, that was pretty much it. And then finally,
But
I was gonna say pretty
yeah.
much yeah, that was it. And then just regained control of the social media accounts like a week ago.
Okay. So have you been able to suit up at all or do anything or travel anywhere?
Oh yeah, I was able to go to the Pac-12 tournament, which is super awesome. I mean, that was my first opportunity to really travel on an air trip
Mm.
with the band and with the team, and that was super exciting. I've never been to Vegas before. I'm
Oh,
21.
really?
That rocked. I spent my entire per diem at the blackjack table. I did not eat for 4 days. Awesome.
Yeah, I lost my per diem. I started putting on roulette, and then I had like $80, and then like Wilbur was like, "Put it on red. We can't lose." And then like all the other masks, like they're all like looking at me like I'm not gonna say no now. So I put it all on red, and then like the joke lasted like 5 minutes, and they're all giggling. And then afterwards, I'm like, "Well, I still don't have any money left. Like I have to buy my own food now." So, with your interactions with the other Pac-12 mascots, what was the sort of vibe you got? Did you like the Benny who was there? I don't remember who was there. Maybe Spencer.
Dude, everyone was so awesome. I mean, getting to know them, I would say also they've got their own teams. I don't. So there's groups of people showing up who sort of have met each other, know each other. When you do tree, you do it for 1 year. So this is my first time meeting everyone. And traditionally, I'm pretty on my own and individual in the tree position. So seeing all these other mascots and getting to go out and, hang out with them, talk to them, do things was incredibly fun.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to do the Pac-12 all basketball game, where it's like all the mascots together, North versus South?
I did. That was really fun, especially because I am 10 feet tall in the tree, which is about the height of the basket.
Mm.
So I'm quite the defensive unit. Also quite the unit for tip-off, where I did do the tip-off against Oski the bear and obliterated said bear.
I feel like Oski's always been these past years pretty short, so I feel like you can just
Yeah,
absolutely decimate, just like swing your head
I
around.
did in fact decimate Oski the bear at the tip-off.
Yeah, I remember Grayson's strategy because I went to Vegas with him. I think like two times now. His strategy was that like you can't really stick your hands out, so I'm just gonna play defense and run into everyone. And that was his entire play. Was the Stanford tree was just trucking people. So I was on the North team, so I was with the tree, so it was kind of funny. But then like afterwards, all the other mascots like we couldn't get our hand on the ball because the tree just kept running into us. Was that your strategy too?
That was not my strategy. I wanted to sink a three-pointer. So I definitely had my hands out. I would say in general, I was just trying to block people. So anytime someone would get the ball, I would try to run in front of them and just stand in their eye line so they could not even see the basket. Generally, it worked. I think at one point, Oski shot the ball and it went out of bounds because they just couldn't see the basket. That was hilarious.
So speaking of Oski and rivalries, Stanford's main rivalry are the Cal Golden Bears, and I know my perspective of Cal. My dad was the student band director in '82, the big game '82. So he was there on the field conducting the students. So I have a lot of family legacy in Memorial Stadium. But what would you say? No holds bars. Your opinion on not the people at Cal, but Cal as an institution and as a rivalry. Like what would you how would you describe that for people who might not know?
I would say the Stanford Cal rivalry is super important to both teams athletically, spiritually, and like culturally.
Mm.
Knowing that we have this rivalry and the environment it creates between Stanford and Cal is super important and helps create a sense of spirit and pride for people on both sides of it. I will also say, in general, I think Stanford students think they are always winning and so therefore care less about the rivalry than Cal students.
Mm.
So as a Stanford student, I may walk down the street and see someone in a Cal sweater and be like, "Boo, Cal." And that's probably the extent of what would happen. Whereas if I wore a Stanford sweater through Berkeley, I would get lots of "fuck you."
Yeah, no. As Oregon State and our rival being the Ducks, I entirely know the one side being more hostile to the others. That's definitely us. When we beat Oregon and stormed the field, it got actually pretty ruthless. Our fans were pretty gnarly, but still a good time nonetheless. So yeah, that's one of the oldest rivalries too. Like, because Stanford and Cal are both just God knows how old, right?
Think I don't I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know how far back it goes.
I feel like it goes back very, very long, right? So just having that historical rivalry on campus, and I feel like it's because I feel like a lot of Cal fans I know are like went there back in like the 50s or like you see older Cal fans and older Stanford fans, and that rivalry has been like institutionalized in like the Bay Area for so many years. So it really does have like a lot of power in that sector. And while like Stanford Cal might not be like nationally as big anymore, it's still like pretty goddamn big in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I'd say these are the two main schools of the Bay Area. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're walking down the street, you're seeing Stanford and Cal sweaters, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that you see everywhere you go, which is really interesting. You're going out with your friends, you're going to a concert, Stanford, Cal, Stanford, Cal.
Oh man, I just loved hearing like I would egg on my Cal friends to talk to you about Stanford and egg on my Stanford friends to talk about Cal. I'm like, dude, this guy said this, and oh man, it was so funny. But so did you ever get to interact with any other? So some other mascots came to Stanford, right, for
Yes.
football. Okay, what was your interaction with them like? Like, what's kind of the day in the life of like a football game? Like, you wake up early and then like go.
So for football games, at least, I would say I'm a very last minute person. I will do my own thing until I'm asked, until I have to be somewhere. So if we're leaving the band shack to go head over and perform for walk over with the football players at 2 p.m., I will be there at 1:55. Whereas I think a lot of people, they're prepping their instruments.
Mm.
I've got a tree. I don't really need to prep it. So I'll show up then, go to said event, uh, walk with the players into the stadium, and then we come back out, actually take a break, water break, eat food, and then we'll actually go into the game, run out on the field, play pregame, play halftime, play after the game, play during the game. It's a long, long day, but I would say I never run out of energy as a
Mhm.
person. I may just be very tired in the morning, but once my day is started, it is not over until I decide it is over. I don't run out of energy. So for me, it was actually a lot of fun and super easy to just dance for 4 hours straight in a giant tree costume.
That's the tree mentality. And did you end up beating ASU when they came down? I feel like you guys did.
I don't remember. I think I was very fixated on the fact that I was being suspended.
Uh, so so they didn't even let you finish that game out. They pulled you away
Oh,
right.
I was pulled into the stands, which was funny because they made me take the tree off and I had a shirt on underneath that said Stanford hates fun. So I was
Mm,
like, are you sure you want me to take the tree off? Because kind of wearing this shirt too.
yeah, it's not helping too much. But so like what's some of your best memories during football season or maybe during like a different event being the tree? Like what's one of your favorite memories?
Going to Vegas was a lot of fun, especially meeting all the other mascots, because that was the first opportunity I had to really interact with other mascots.
Mm,
Um, Stanford Hates Fun was a really, really fun thing. Probably one of the best experiences I've had at Stanford, just to have in that moment to recognize everything that was going on and just see the impact that I was making was incredible. That was really magnificent. And also, I think what I wanted to accomplish, I want to be someone who is fearless and who creates change and won't back down. And I think that was one of those moments in my life where I was able to embody that well. So I was
mhm,
super proud of that. I would also say Tree Week, becoming the tree, the actual process,
mm,
performing stunts every other day for about 2 weeks straight. Tree Week is how you become the tree. And whoever
mm,
does the most psycho stuff is named tree. That was a lot of fun for me. I am definitely an unhinged type of fun, and that allowed me to channel that in a way that was creative and unique and definitely experimental.
Yeah, I was in a fraternity and we had an I week. So tree week, I can already kind of figure. So what are some for people that might not know, the audition process for a lot of mascots is normally you have to just kind of show up, be the right height, and be able to improvise well and do a lot of these things. But there's only one tree, right? There might be other mascot spots open for like Benny or like the duck or something like that, but there's one tree. So you need to prove yourself to be the number one tree. So what have people done to prove their worth in the past to become the Stanford tree?
Yeah, when I say Tree Week is psycho, Tree Week is psycho.
Hmm.
Historically, some great tree stunts. Somebody cut off three of their toes.
I heard that one. I heard about that one
Um,
in the 80s, right?
yeah, there was a girl who bit the head off of a live snake. Another person who siphoned out 2 liters of their own blood and then drank it all. I thought that was really creative. I mean, think of the biological statement you're making there. Just circle of life, right?
What?
You
They
get real creative. What's interesting, especially, is there is an element of it that is it's a performance art. It is you have to be telling a story. There has to be something creative. So, particularly the person who cut off three of their toes didn't actually even end up getting tree that year because you know why? What are you doing? You're just hurting yourself as opposed to creating some grand performance where I remember Dakota, a previous tree, 3 trees before me.
Mhm. She was the
Um,
LSD tree, right? Like the
no,
psychedelic.
that was Caroline Cush.
Oh,
Cush.
okay.
But Dakota had a great stunt where this was during sort of the Trump election. His whole tree week was a satire of Donald Trump's campaign, and it was Donald Stump.
Hmm.
And so he printed out a bunch of Trump's stupidest tweets and had them on his back, and then handed out a bunch of darts to people and just turned around and said, "Pick your favorite tweet." And I think that is a lot more creative, at least, than cutting off three of your toes for no reason.
Does it always have to involve physical or can there be like more psychological? Because I don't know if I could do the physical route, but the
There's definitely psychological. No, for sure. I had one where I was doing a live Q&A for an hour, or planning to at least, and then um, streamed it live on social media, and I did it hooked up to a polygraph test. Let people ask me whatever. So I feel like that was psychologically
that's
very
a
empowering.
that's a really good one. I think I think Grayson said, I don't know if he did it or if he told me a story, they would hang banners off of like the Hoover Tower. Some dude buried himself up to like his head and he said like kick me, or he made like a jello mold of his ass and he like said like eat my ass. He like offered like jello to people around campus. So does like the university care or is it just like, oh, it's tree week, like figures, like you're
Tree
choosing to
Week's
do it.
definitely become a lot safer in than it was historically. Before there were no holds bars and legitimately no rules. Now the rules are sort of shifting to promote, safety and not pressure anyone to do anything that they might not be comfortable with. But,
Mm.
as long as it's safe
Yeah,
and
that
you're creating you're not doing anything by force, you're doing anything by choice, then go for
and
it.
and that's another thing is you're not like, oh, you're the tree, you have to do this. It's prove yourself, prove what you can do. And like obviously everyone wants to be the one tree. They want to have their name on the Wikipedia page of the list of trees. So they're going to be the ones kind of deciding their own things. You're not telling them like, well, you should like cut off three of your toes. No, it's like you have to come up with something yourself. Like, how far are you willing to go, more or less, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any more of like these tree stories from the past? Because like the siphoning blood one is fucking insane. That's metal as fuck.
Let me think. There's a lot, but
I can cut I can cut some of these out. Don't worry if you just
there was, I mean, someone, I thought this was really funny, but I don't know if you know this. If you put a light bulb in your mouth, you can't take it out. So because
mm,
of just biology, the actual
yeah.
geometry of a light bulb will go into your mouth, but if you put a light bulb in your mouth, you can't take it out. Uh, so there was a tree who put a light bulb in her mouth, and we were all like, "Ooh, that's so funny because it can't come out," and then ate it.
Wait, like
Just
glass?
yes,
Don't you have to go to the hospital if you eat glass?
yeah,
But she was like,
it was pretty hardcore.
you eat, but you eat a fucking light bulb. Like,
Just
oh,
ate a light
yeah, I would
bulb.
like crunch it down. They like do that and like rinse out. No, just ate a fucking light
She
bulb.
just ate a light bulb. For me, that was so funny because in my head, I'm like, I can't wait to see how she gets this light bulb out of her mouth. And she just bites down and starts chewing.
Holy shit. It has to be like maybe like a safety glass light bulb. Yeah, if it wasn't gonna like kill me or tear up my insides, I don't know, maybe eat a light bulb for the tree position. So this next tree is gonna be going through his tree week pretty soon. He or she's gonna be deciding what they want to do for their skits, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got normally you're doing a bunch of stunts, typically anywhere from 5 to 7 stunts.
Mhm.
So I'm Tree Week starts in a week, so I'm super excited to see
So
what
it's a lot of people come up to it, or like you pick like five and then they do the tree week, or like how does tree week like
open. Whoever wants to attempt to become the tree is welcome to attempt to become the tree. Show me what you got.
and so you said like one of the best things is like because the tree is always like there's a high layer of creativity when you're like making your own. You said you had to learn to weld like the circular rings together. There's a high level of creativity. So someone who's not only just willing to do crazy shit, but like there's like a message and there's some creativity behind it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you have to tell a story. You have to show that you're creative, that you can put thought behind things, and that you're original more than anything.
Okay, okay. I'm actually speechless at the blood and the light bulb shit. I didn't know it went that far because like Grayson told me like he like made a jello mold of his ass and he said like, oh, eat my ass. And I was like, okay, that's like kind of funny, but I can only imagine the things he might not have told me right after meeting me for the very first time. So what is are you like a local celebrity on campus or do people like know you're the well, people know you're the tree, but
People definitely know I'm the tree. I think that's more than public knowledge. Like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, it's the tree," or if I'm in my tree costume, people will come out and be like, "Oh, hey Jordan, what's up?" So
Is it kind of like a like local celebrity thing? Is it like a clout thing, or is it just like, or some people are like, oh, that's the tree, or it's like, oh, that's a tree that got suspended, or more people like, oh, that's the dude who like stood up for like the Stanford hates fun. So did you get like a lot of like positive feedback from the student base from that?
unanimously positive feedback. I was not approached once by someone who had a problem with it, except for Stanford administration. Everyone who spoke to me about it said that they were super, honestly, they were like, I'm proud of you. Like, you did something that we all needed to happen. Like, you created change at this university. And now there is a new position at the university, someone whose job it is to manage the whole Stanford Hates Fun, which has also become this like revolutionary movement on campus. I don't really keep up with it. I sort of feel like I did my part. So
Mm-hmm. So what is like the because I know every kind of school has their own kind of like feel and vibe to it, how the students act and like the mixture between like athletics and academics and social. It's this big hodgepodge of things. And, Oregon State was like 30,000 people, but Stanford's a lot smaller. So what is like the student base like? Is it a lot more like tight knit or?
I would say so. I'd say, whereas, especially visiting other people, I'm actually going to go visit one of my friends at another university this week. But having visited other people, when you go out at Stanford, you're going to run into people that you know, and not
Mm,
just run into them, you're going to run into a majority of people that you
mm.
know. So I'd say at least 60 or 70% of people that I see when I go out, I will know by name,
Oh, wow.
which is not something that I see at other universities where you go out and you know maximum one or two people there who happen to be there, unless
Mm,
you're going specifically with a group of people, which is really interesting. It's a dynamic that I never expected or never really gave any thought. I do really like because I like making friends and knowing people, but it's also hard to meet new people because there are so few people.
mm. So do you follow like Stanford like athletics a lot, or are you just kind of like, I just like to show up and if they win, they win?
Honestly, probably the latter. I've never really been a huge sports person. I do love to play sports,
Mm,
but I've never really spent a lot of time watching sports besides maybe the NFL
mm,
and not even really college sports. I grew up a huge Michigan fan, so that
mm,
was my sport of choice if I was going to watch college
mm,
sports, Michigan football.
mm.
But coming to Stanford, being the tree definitely makes watching sports a lot more entertaining. I mean, I'm on the sideline or I'm on the court for every single game, and it gives you an element of buy-in. But aside from that, I'm just there to tree and do my thing, create trouble, dance around, have fun. Uh, Win or lose, I will have my fun.
So I just gotta say this. I was watching the Oregon State Stanford game live. And John, that was when he was down there. He had the photo of you, like him chainsawing you. He had only great things to say about you. What was your reaction to that late game, like Hail Mary random touchdown pass?
That was sad. There are a few moments when I feel like I've actually been a little bit crushed by an outcome. If we lose a game, it's never really been, no. That was one of those games, particularly because my parents were in town, and that was the first time
Oh,
they had come to Stanford and seen me tree.
oh.
And it was so close, and we were going to win. And my parents were texting me the whole time, and they were in the stands, and they were pointing to me. And I just remember pulling up the tree costume and just looking at them and being like,
Taking it all
jaw
in.
dropped silent for a minute, which is a really long time to not say anything.
Yeah, I'll show you the video of I was like taking a Snapchat at the very end because they're like, oh, they're going, they might do something, and I just squeal like a little girl. I'm so giddy, I'm so happy. But yeah, sorry, I just had to bring up that. Also, in terms of random things to bring up, I Google searched the Stanford tree. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen once again. Da-da-da-da. I Google searched the Stanford tree, and you were on Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
What? What the fuck? What was that like? I mean, how'd you get picked for that? Did Did you leverage the tree position to be like, hey, I'm the tree, pick me for the Wheel of Fortune?
I actually did not leverage the tree, but I would say in keeping behavior with tree stuff, I am a very unique person. I'm a very go out and get it type of person. If there's something I want in my life, I will
Mm.
dedicate myself to that. Part of that was becoming tree. During tree week, I knew there was nothing I wouldn't do to become the tree. I would put my full faith effort into it. I also have this really niche bucket list with really weird things on it, one of which was to be on a game show. And so I absolutely knew that I would make it happen for 4 or 5 years straight. I've been applying to a bunch of game shows. And then I did make it on Wheel of Fortune. I got called back for auditions and more auditions. And I had the opportunity to go and film. And the episode actually just came out last week. One of the funniest things I think I've ever watched. If you haven't seen it, I would absolutely recommend. There are lots of Easter eggs hidden if you just watch me throughout the episode. Definitely an unconventional candidate player.
Did you end up winning or
I got second place, but I did make out with a lot of prizes, which I
prizes?
won't spoil, but I would say was very, very happy with how I ended up.
Damn, dude. So I just love this dot Stanford. This year treat. So the sorry, what was the name of the announcer guy? It wasn't Trebek. Who was it again?
At Sajak.
Was he like cool? Did you like talk to him like behind the scenes at all or?
Oh yeah, every commercial break we would talk about tree. He was really interested in the tree because he did end up asking me about that on the show. They aired that,
Hmm.
but there's a lot that would happen during commercial breaks which never made the camera, except at the end of one of the scenes, you can see uh I think we were talking about Tree Week. And I think it just right when we come back from commercial, you just hear my voice go, "You don't want to know." And they left that in there. And that's just how they come back from commercial. And I think that's very funny.
So what other schools were you going against? Like,
I played against Texas Women's University and UC Davis.
oh, the Aggies. Oh, okay. You ever been to UC Davis before?
I have. I again in the whole bucket list thing, I'm weirdly dedicated to certain things. One of them is Raising Cane's. I absolutely love Raising Cane's. I think it's the best chicken chain on the planet. I drove 3 hours to UC Davis to get Raising Cane's because it's the closest Cane's to campus, and 3 hours back. So I actually had a 6 hour day trip just to go get chicken.
Dude, Caniac combo, no slaw,
I'm a
extra
Caniac.
toast.
I'm a Caniac.
The Caniac combo, no slaw. So that's all we got. That's all we got in Vegas for like the Pac-12 mascots. Every single time we went there, we get that. It was so good. I love Raising Cane's also. Like it's the best.
Oh yeah, when we were in Vegas, we went to Cane's. There were people. We were just walking around trying to figure out what we wanted to eat. I saw the Cane's. I knew it had to happen.
So did any of the mascots did they get a little rowdy in Vegas at night?
Who's to say it's Vegas?
Yeah,
What happens in Vegas
what
stays
happens
in
in Vegas?
Vegas.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that after the interview. But so man, dude, I just the tree, what a fucking crazy mascot and just a crazy position. It is unlike any other mascot I've ever talked to. I've talked to guys that are from like, like smaller schools like Oregon State. I've talked to like bigger schools like even Georgia, SEC, like Florida, but nothing really is like the tree. And it's a very unique experience. So what have you like learned from the tree of like just going through this fucking tree week, building your own tree, starting a campus revolution? Like what's like your biggest takeaways, what you've learned as the tree?
First things first, I would say fear, and this is going to be a bold assertion, but fear is stupid. I think there are emotions that can drive decision making, like love, for example. You feel love, you should let that guide your decision making. I think fear should be ignored largely. There are obvious exceptions to that, but the majority of people let fear stop them from doing things that otherwise would forever alter the course of their lives and help them reach their goals, create an impact, do what they want to do. I think fear is dumb. I think, second, you don't have to follow any conventional path. Be yourself, which is so cliche to say, but also build yourself, make yourself something new, something special, something unique, because everyone is different. So if you are truly being yourself, you can evaluate that by, am I like anyone else? If you're truly unprecedented, then that's being yourself because everyone is unique. I don't have a number three. Let's
I
go with
just
those two.
Dude, I just saw like this like completely like hero cycle of like starting like we started this of like, oh, I want my tree to represent fear, and then you come around all the way back and it's still that's like the overarching is like being fearless, like representing this like pillar that should be like funny but making it scary, and then just being like, don't do that shit, have your own thing. It's like that's it's like your life is like an artistic play that people can analyze for so long. And then halfway through, like the big scary arc is when you talk about people eating light bulbs because that's fucking
The
maybe
whale's belly of the story.
that is the real fear at the end of all of this. Jordan, it's been an honor. It's been so much fun just learning. If you have any last words you want to say, I definitely want to talk to you a little bit after because we can shoot some shit. But do you have any last words for the people who might be listening?
I think becoming the Stanford tree was the best decision ever. I do not regret it. I do not regret anything I've done as tree. I think it's super important. I hope it continues to stay that way. And I hope that people can find their own version of that, whatever that is to them.
Everyone, make your own tree, make your own
Make your
path,
own tree,
make your own tree.
metaphorically or literally.
Or literally, you might have to learn how to sew, which might be a little tough. All right, Grayson. Well, this has been Behind the Mascot episode. Let's just say 10. It might be 11. I never know how to end these things, which is always really funny. But that's it. I'll see you next week. We might have Michigan State. We might not. I don't really know. We need to plan that out and get that all according. So all right, everyone. It's been an honor, Grayson. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much.